Back live with you tonight. Thanks for staying on. Eskom says it is considering implementing permanent stage 2 and 3 load shedding for the next 24 months. The utility and its leadership made the revelation during a briefing earlier on the state of the grid. South African Energy Forum Executive Director Hlathi Madela joins us now for his analysis. But Madela, good evening and thank you very much for your time. The operative word here is considering. So Eskom telling us essentially they've not made that decision because it would have, I suppose, particular implications in how it operates and whether or not they can guarantee that degree of predictability. What is your analysis? What would it take? What would Eskom need to do for them to be able to an extent guarantee South Africa that kind of predictability?
What do you mean, sir? First of all, good evening to you, sir. You're talking about the predictability of whether they can contain the power system into stage 1 and stage 2 load shedding for the next 24 months. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's it.
Look, they are buying themselves out time embedded in their own plan of 24 months, which is an 8-page document. But they are also saying to us, we must normalize load shedding, which we shouldn't accept because there is a solution from other quarters and even in government itself. So I'm not sure whether the plan that they've come up with it will be able to contain it, because when we look into the plan, it's pretty much things that they've tried before. They are just giving us new hope that they will do them differently this time around. So first of all, they're not going to be able to sustain that stage 1 to stage 3 load shedding in that 24 months. With the current plan that they came up with. Secondly, we should reject that plan. We don't want load shedding at all, and there is a solution.
Yeah. So we'll talk about what you're saying would be the option. There are some who've been saying in terms of planned maintenance or planned breakdowns, if they were to increase the rate of those, that would mean we will have load shedding, so there is no way that we can avoid that. And again, if we don't increase the rate of those and we carry on at the current level where it's ad hoc, now and again, it's not properly planned, then we are going to see an increase in the unplanned breakdowns of power stations. What do you say to that debate?
That's a perfect statement from them. Where these statements lack action is them leaving it to us when they say they are going to increase the maintenance. They have to be practical. For them to be able to properly maintain these plants and bring them back to stability and do a proper maintenance, they need something else to hold up the system. If they continue trying to implement operate the maintenance on the very same system that should supply us, they're never going to win. That's what they've been trying to do. So they must face up to the reality that what is it that we are going to need to hold the system in the next 24 months while we are dealing with the maintenance once and for all. So it's not a question of containing maintenance. It's a question of what do you need to do to keep the country running while you are dealing with maintenance in the absence of those systems being part of the power supply in the next 24 months.
Right. Now, the one thing that we're hearing from the president even tonight in the Free State is that means we need an alternative source from the current ones that we have. And the alternatives that they're being mooted about now is power from other countries with surplus or a conversation around rooftop solar panels all over the country. Are these even something that you are thinking about as part of the ideas that you're saying is something that we can implement right now for alternative energy sources?
We agree with the president and the government in terms of procuring power from the countries that may have surplus, or not even surplus, but that may be able to spare capacity for South Africa, 2 of those countries being Mozambique and Namibia. But the solution for rooftops is problematic. It's basically an empty statement because the government doesn't pay for the people who generate surplus electricity from the rooftops. And if you have a normal rooftop that you can put for yourself, it's not sufficient for your own consumption. If you have a proper rooftop system, it comes at a huge cost, something like in the order of 195,000 to 250 or even 300. Now you're going to need returns on that money. But the government doesn't have a compensation structure for those who invest in this and end up producing surplus electricity to sell to the grid. So it's a hope that is devoid of the reality, because who is going to invest in a rooftop in such a way that he can produce the surplus? If you invest for yourself, you're investing for the lights and TV. You can't invest for your fridge and the stove and the ironing, because that small solar system won't be able to cope with that.
So what is the option? I mean, the suggestion from one political party, Economic Freedom Fighters, is power shifts, saying this is a practice that is being done in all sorts of Asian countries, certainly has worked there, and it's something that we should not be afraid to do as South Africa.
It is the only solution. It's not only the option, it's the only solution that we have. What we need to do as all the stakeholders is to beg the government and almost be on our knees and plead with the government to say, don't take this through a tender system. Remove the tender system, if you know what I mean. Don't take it through a public tender system or a closed tender system. Go straight to these power ships companies. Tell them that we need to rent your power ships for the next 24 months. They will be hooked onto the berth on the barge, and we are going to find out from you what will it take for us as South Africa through Transnet to procure the liquefied natural gas so that we hand over that function to Eskom. It's the only solution, and it's a solution that we can deploy now in the next 3 months. And if we started tomorrow, there will be no load shedding by the 30th of June in this country ever again. But if the government is going to go through a tender process and allow corruption and allow the pushing and shoving that happens in these bids, we are never going to realize it. The Economic Freedom Fighters is 100% correct. What we need to do is to tell the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy to say, could you please work with Eskom and go to these power ships and place a contract with them to lease these power ships and take over the operations of these power ships and the supply of fuel and the supply of other input costs into that. Then we can arrest load shedding for the next 2 years. Then we can deal with the maintenance issues. It's the only solution, sir.
The other solution that they keep talking to is the restructuring of Eskom, separating it into generation, distribution, and retail. Is there any benefit whatsoever that could be derived from that in the immediate?
No, not in the immediate. That's the benefit for future, because it opens up a market for South Africa for those who come to our country to come and open up discussions of investment by choice, if you understand what I mean. They can't come here when we're in a crisis because we're unable to negotiate properly. So we should only allow breaking up Eskom into 3 entities when we don't have load shedding, when everything is working. Now we are attracting investment. We say to them, the government is going to hold the transmission system. We have leveled the playing field. No one is disadvantaged, whether you come from overseas. No one is disadvantaged, whether you're producing 5 megawatts or you're producing 3 megawatts. It's a question of how much you can wheel into the grid. So it's a long-term solution. By long-term, I actually mean it's something that we have to plan for in the next 5 years. But what we need to do right now is to stabilize Eskom, do away with load shedding, and when we have arrested all these problems, then we can realistically look at breaking up Eskom into 3 parts for the benefit of you and me to be able to invest in power and be able to partner with our other people. But also to look into what happens to Eskom generation, because that is where the biggest debt is, and ask very critical questions to say, who is actually going to fund that debt? Because it cannot be funded at the expense of Eskom, because otherwise Eskom generation will die to be a thing of the past. All that will be left for Eskom to be to wield the power and work with the municipalities to distribute the power to the customers.
That is Hlathi Madela. He's the Energy Forum Executive Director there, giving us his analysis then to the latest proposal being mooted and considered by the power utility, according to its chairman or chairperson, that they could create some predictability by permanently putting the country on either stage 2 or stage 3.